Good afternoon, my students. Nice to meet you here again today. Actually, today is the turn of student named Octavianus Kaka to present his presentation about understanding narrative text. However, he doesn't give. Okay, please come in. Om Swastiastu. Any reason for not presenting or attending to this class today? Okay, fortunately, I have prepared the material for today. So our second material of English genre text today is about understanding narrative text. Maybe some of you have known or have heard about what narrative text is. Today, I'd like to give the emphasis of understanding more about what we are talking about specifically. Well, let's start by discussing about the introduction to narrative text. The definition of narrative text is a form of writing that tells a story or recounts a sequence of events. It often includes characters, a setting, a plot, and a theme. This definition is proposed or delivered by the linguist McKee in 1997. Well, so I hope all of you could understand what narrative text is. So maybe another time, if you are asked by other people about what narrative text is, you can explain it well or correctly. Next. After knowing the generic structure of the narrative text, there is also what we call here as the generic structure. Okay. There are 4 generic structures in narrative text. The first one is introduction, or the other word, it is called as orientation. It sets the scenes and introduces the participants. Here, there are W8 questions used. For example, what, where, when, and who. Okay. What is the actor? Where the event? Okay. Where is the event? When does or did the event take place? and who was the actor. And then about the second one, the complication. Okay. Complication, or in other words, it is called as the complication too. It is a crisis or a problem arises. So when the narrative text has problem, it is in the complication state. So you can predict that the situation is in the complication stage. And then the third one is the conclusion, or in other words, it is called as the resolution. It is the crisis, or when the crisis is resolved for better or worse conditions. So conclusion or resolution here is when the stage of the event goes down, okay, goes down from the complication or the climax, okay. And then we have the last one, the reorientation. It is optional. It could be existed or not. Reorientation, also known as evaluation, is an optional component of a narrative text that serves to reflect on the story and its events, reinforcing the moral lesson or theme. Or in other words, it is called as the moral value. Okay, so in reorientation, or the generic structure, the last generic structure of the narrative text, you can find what we call here as the reinforcing of the moral lesson or the moral value of the text. Well, so let's remember or recollect 4 kinds or types of the generic structure of the narrative text. The first one is introduction. The second one is complication. The third one is conclusion. And the last one is the reorientation. It is optional. The last one could be existed or not. Okay, the tense. So what kind of tense is usually or mainly used in the narrative text? Okay, the main tense is used here, simple past tense. So you have to use the simple past tense in making the narrative text. You are not allowed to make other tenses, but only the simple past tense. Next, we have the purpose. After knowing about the generic structure, the meaning, the tense, and now we have arrived to the purpose. So what is the purpose of the narrative text? The purpose of the narrative text or narrative genre is to amuse, entertain, and to deal with actual or vicarious experience in different ways. Here, vicarious means what we call it here, as if, okay, as if experience the story, okay, as if you experience the story in your narrative text, experienced by yourself. Okay, that's the purpose. The narrative text genre, especially the function here, is to amuse, entertain, and to deal with actual or vicarious experience in different ways. Okay, here. Next, we have what we call as the elements of narrative text. There are 5. Okay, 5 elements here. The first one is characters. So what are characters, or what is character? It is the introduction to the main people or beings in the story. It is about the characteristic. Okay, it is about the personality of every actor or maybe actress, okay, who played in the scene, okay, or in every scene of the story or the narrative text. And then the second one is the setting. Setting is about the description of where and when the story takes place. Okay, when and where and when, or when and where the story takes place. It is about the locus or the location of the story. And then the third one is the plot, the sequence of events that make up the story. Okay, we have 3 kinds of plot. In English, forward, middle, and backward. Okay, or the mixture maybe from the backward, forward, and the mixture of them. And then the fourth one is the conflict. So maybe you have known what the conflict is. It's the problem or challenge faced by the characters. The problem, the challenge, the obstacle, the barrier faced by the characters. And then the last one is the resolution. It is about how the conflict is resolved or the outcome of the story. Okay, the resolution. The problem is overcome by every characters every character, including in the story or starring in the story. Okay, that's the elements of narrative text proposed by Fromm in 1928 in his book. Okay, please keep in mind about what we call here the elements of the narrative text. The first one is characters, the second one is setting, the third one is plot, the fourth one is conflict, and the last one is the resolution. Okay. After knowing the previous one, now we turn to types of narrative text. Here we have three types of narrative text. The first one is personal narrative. The second one is fictional narrative. And the third one is non-fictional narrative. Personal narrative means story based on personal experiences or events. So here, based on the personal, what we call here, situation, personal condition, personal story of life. Okay, that is called as the personal narrative. And the second one is the fictional narrative. Fictional narrative means imaginary story created by the author. So here we call this as the what we call here beside fictional or imaginary, non or unrealistic narrative. Okay. The story is taken from the imagination of the author. And the last one, non-fiction narrative, based on the true story, or means true events or real life experiences presented in a narrative form. So these types is the kinds of the narrative text or the types of the narrative text here are proposed, okay, by Ginnett in 1930. So please keep in mind about the types of narrative text: personal narrative, fictional narrative, and non-fictional narrative. Personal narrative based on the personal experiences. Fictional narrative based on the imaginary story or unrealistic or untrue. And then non-fiction narrative based on the true story, true events, or real life experiences. Okay, next, we will discuss about the structure of a narrative text. Okay, I'd like to repeat my explanation earlier by giving this one more specifically. So the first one is the introduction or exposition. It means setting the scene, introducing characters, and providing background information. The second one is rising action. Okay. In this structure, we have events that build suspense and lead to the climax. And the third one is climax. the peak of the story where the conflict reaches its highest point. Okay, it is the top grid, or what we call here as the peak of the story, the top of the story. Okay, where the conflict reaches its highest point, where the conflict reaches its, what we call here, top of problem. And then the fourth one is falling action, when the climax decreases. Okay, events that follow the climax and lead to the resolution. So falling action means when the climax decreases. So here the problem will try to move to the resolution. And the last one, the resolution itself. So here, the conclusion or ending of the story. So the resolution is the end of the story. The conclusion or ending of the story are told. The conclusion and the ending of the story are told here, or mentioned here by the writer. And next, language features in narrative text. So here we have three language features. The first one is descriptive language. The second one is dialogue. And the third one is the narrative point. So what is meant by descriptive language? Descriptive language, so it means creating vivid images and sensory details. So your, what we call here, your sense could reach, okay, could reach the images. So it is called as the descriptive language. And then the second one, dialogue. Here, there are direct speech between characters to convey emotions and move the story forward. Okay, dialogue is the conversation between characters in the story. Okay, especially the direct speech, not indirect speech. And then the narrative point of view. Okay, there are first person narrative point of view, third person limited, or omniscient. So there are three kinds of narrative point of view used in this language features. It is proposed by Genet in 1988. Okay, and now we have the examples of narrative text. Okay, as you can see, there are 5 examples. Okay, the first one is fictional narrative. A fictional narrative is a story that is not based on real events or real people. It can be a novel, short story, fable, or fairy tale. That's the fictional narrative. The second one is autobiography. An autobiography is a narrative text that tells the life story of the author written from a first-person perspective. The third one is biography. It is different with the autobiography. In biography, the text that tells the life story of someone other than the author, written from a third-person perspective. Autobiography from a first-person perspective, while biography written from a third-person perspective. And the fourth one is memoir or memoir. It is a narrative text that focuses on a particular period or event in the author's life, often written from a first-person perspective. And the last one is legend. It is kind of a folklore. It's a traditional story that has been passed on for generations. It often explains the origins of a particular culture or society. Okay, next we have tips for writing narrative text. So if you want to write or produce narrative text, there are some tips that you can use to what we call here to apply, okay, your passion in writing the narrative text. The first one, develop engaging characters with distinct personalities and motives. The second one, create a compelling setting that enhances the story's mood and atmosphere. The third one, build a well-structured plot with a clear beginning, middle, and end. And the last one, use descriptive language to immerse readers in the story. Okay, that's the tip, or those are proposed by the Lodge. Those tips proposed by Lodge in 1992. So please pay attention for these ones. Maybe next time I will give you the task or homework to create your narrative text by yourself. Okay, these are the references of making this PowerPoint slide from Mackie, Prop, Janet, Critic, Lodge. So you can search the book from the online website. Okay, this one is your homework, your exercise. Okay, after giving this lecture, I will give you the homework to analyze or identify the types, the generic structures, and the elements of the narrative text below. Like I said earlier. Okay, do you get the point? Paham ya? Saya, please check the material given earlier that I have presented before to match with the task given in based on this example of narrative text. Okay, do you get the point? Well, I think that's all for today. As usual, before ending the meeting, I'd like to check your attendance. Saya akan cek kehadirannya ya. Nanti akan saya kirimkan juga untuk tugasnya sama presentasi hari ini ke aplikasi e-kampus. And also, I'd like to check by using. Okay, Maria Dini Aminarti Bani, present. Nancy, okay. Dewi Putriani Yogeswara Lodwig, are you
Yes,
here?
sir.
Okay.
I'm here. Yes.
Eri Natalia. Eri, are you here? Okay, Harry Natalia is here. Eko Sugiarto? What about Eko Sugiarto? No. Some. Inyoman Tak Tak?
Abstain.
Okay, abstain.
Information.
Izin Pak, tadi katanya ada ngaben.
Okay, Thomas Wungo? Abstinent? Fauzi. Okay, 10. Octavianus? No. Abstinent. Taman. Nobita Jujitno? Okay, no. Abstinent. Rateni?
Hadir, Pak.
Yes. Niputu Dewi Indrayati? Abstinent? Okay, Alpha. Well, I think that's all for today. So we end our lecture today, and we will continue our lecture next week. Yes? Okay. Thank you very much for attending and joining our hybrid lecture today. I hope what we have discussed further or so far today will give you the valuable insight, okay, or the new knowledge about the narrative text itself. Have a nice day and goodbye.